Yeah, we'll keep that door closed. I think it should stay closed. Okay. Okay. And we are all set here. We are live here.
I want to change something here. So when it's pulled in, it's locked. You cannot open it now.
Okay.
So in case that someone comes in with a gun.
We are here. We are here. We're in place. Barbara Moorman is joining us. And Joe is online also. Okay. So our crowd is beginning. Okay. Jeff and Simon, since I'm starting and we're videoing, so let's go ahead over there. That's right, that way. Okay. Judy is coming. All right. Our crowd is growing by leaps and bounds. So I'm happy to have everybody here. And I'm going to start off. Good morning. Good morning. A little music for Shabbat to warm us up. Going to warm us up this morning. Okay. This one, a little mix-up of modern Israeli and Middle Eastern, Mizrahi style, taking the theme of Ani ledodi v'dodi li, I'm my beloved's and my beloved is mine, and the beautiful singer and voice and musical arrangement. So that's to warm us up for this Shabbat morning as we get ourselves ready. Enjoy. Okay, a little bit of a warm-up for the morning. It's from Song of Songs, Ani ledodi v'dodi li. And the rabbis said that this is to mark the relationship not just of two young star-crossed lovers, as it would seem in the surface reading of Song of Songs, Shir Shirim, but of the children of Israel, the people of Israel, and God. Also sometimes star-crossed lovers. And so now we continue with our service. Go ahead, we're going to use the prayer books as we have it in the pews. I hope that everybody else can follow along. We're going to start on page 10 with the morning blessing. So you can read it with me. You can just answer the Amen. Either way. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu mecholam asher natan l'sefer v'nafkim ben yom v'ben laila. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai mecholam shasani b'tzamo. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai mecholam shasani Yisrael. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai mecholam shasani ben chorin. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai mecholam pokech ivrim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai mecholam mabish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai mecholam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai mecholam zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai mecholam rok haaretz alamayim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai mecholam shasali kol tzarki. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai mecholam hamechim mitzadei gaver. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai mecholam oz yisrael b'gvura. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai mecholam ot yisrael b'tifara. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai mecholam hanoten la'ef koach. Bless you who gives strength to the weary as we're trying to wake up this Shabbat morning. And we're going to continue now. Open up the service, page 336 with the Shacharit proper. 336. And the crowd is going slowly. Continue, 336. Shochenad marom v'kadosh shemo v'chatuv ranu tzadikim baronai la'isharim lava tehila b'fi yisharim te'ithalal uv'divrei tzadikim te'borach uv'shan chasidim te'tromam uv'keref kedoshim te'hitkahadash uv'makalot tibevot amcha beit Yisrael sheken chovat kol yitzurim lefanech Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elahei avotenu L'odol le'aleh, l'shabeach le'faeh, romem l'adeh l'vrech le'aleh ole'kales, al kol divrei shirot tishbechot, David ben Yishai abdecha meshichecha, yishtabach shemcha la'ad malkeinu el makbesh. Berachot odot me'ata b'yad olam baruch atah Adonai, El melech gadol batishbachot, el odot Adonai niflaot, abocher b'shirei zimra melech echei holamim. Okay, and 2, 4, 5, still a little bit short of a minyan here, so we're going to go ahead with the opening of the first set of prayers, those that reflect the awareness of the light of heaven. Okay. Turn off the microphone.
No, it's on Zoom.
There we go. Okay.
Okay. It's on mute.
There you go. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead then. Page 340. Baruch atah mecholam yotzer or v'choshech oseh shalom v'oreh et hakol. Praise are you, O Lord, King of the universe, creates the lights of the morning and the darkness of the evening, creates peace and creates everything that exists. We're going to continue with El Adon, and I have this rendition for us.
Yeah.
Page 342. 342. Okay.
El Adon al kol ha'masim baruch u'mvorach befi kol neshama golo v'tuvo Male olam da'at udvuna sovavim oto המתגאה על חיות הקודש ונדע בכבוד על המרכבה זכות ומשול לפני כיסו חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו יצרם בדעת, בבינה ובהשכל, כוח וגבורה נתן בהם להיות מושלים בקרב תבל, מלאים זיו ומפיקים נוגה, נאה זיום בכל העולם, שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם, עושים באימה רצון קונם. פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמו, צהלה ורינה לזכר מלכותו, קרא לשמש ויזרח אורה, והתקין צורת הלבנה. שבח נותנים לו קוצב ומרום, תפארת וגדולה, שרפים וחיות ואופני הקודש.
Okay, it was very nice, clean. Oh my gosh, didn't know where it was from. Hold on. I need to keep this on pause. All right. We're going to continue now back in the Machzor. Okay, I welcome everybody back on the screen there. And we're going to continue the vision of the angels, giving the song of praise, page 244. Last week on Shavuot, we read in the Haftarah one of them, the verses of Ezekiel, blessed be the divine presence. Kulam ovim, kulam berurim, kulam giborim, kulam osim b'yamei v'ratzon kanam, v'kulam potchim et b'yam b'kdush haftarah, b'shira v'zemra, v'achim, shabchim, farim, maritzim, magdishim, mamlichim, shem ha'el, ha'melech ha'gadol, ha'gibor v'hanara, kadoshu, kulam mikablim alehem, o malchut shamayim zeh mizeh, ונותנים רשות זה לזה, להקדיש ליוצרם, ונחל בספנים הקדושה, גם כרם ועיר, הקדוש, קדוש, קדוש, אדוני צבאות, ארץ כבודו, ואופנים וחיות הקודש, ברעש כרם מתנסים לעומת שרפים, גם שבחים אומרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני, ממקומו. ברוך נמו, תיתן בחי בזמן. החדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכך לנו מיורו ליורו, ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות. Page 346. Going to continue singing together. There we go. And we can join in the Ahava Rabbah together. Ava Rabba Haftanu Adonai Eloheinu Chem Lagidol Aviteracham Aleinu Avinu Makeinu Ma'avur Avoteinu Shebatchu Becha Shebatchu Becha Avinu Malkeinu Lamdem Chukechayim Kein Techanenu Tlamdeinu Avinu Harachaman Amrachem Rachem Aleinu Lechem Belibeinu Lehavin Lehavin Lehaskil Lishmo Lilmodu Lilamed Lishmo Velaso Olekayem Eskol Mutaratech Haviyahava Erenenu Ratecha V'nahabek Libeinu B'mitzvotecha V'yachei Le'avahu Le'ra et Shemecha V'loi Le'olam va'ed Le'olam Yolam Voed Veshem Rochecha
הגדול והנורא, בתחתונים,
נגילה
נגילה
ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בשורתך, והביאנו לשלום, ארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו כממיות לארצנו. כי ירפא ישועת בנו, ובחרת מכל המלשון, קרבתנו לשמך הגדול, סלה סלה באמת, להודות לך ויחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני, and we continue, we take the tzitzit in hand. We prepare to accept the Ol Malchut Shamayim, the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. And with that yoke comes the privilege of being servants of God. Together we recite the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And together. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ולך בדרך שוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לתוכחות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. 348. We continue the the middle of the page 348, the last paragraph of the Shema. Vayomer Adonai Moshe lemor, daber b'nei Yisrael v'amar lehem v'sulam tzitzit al kanfei bigdehem lidorotam v'natnu tzitzit akanaf v'yitechelet v'yelachem letzitzit. וראיתם אותו, זכרתם מכל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו, ועשיתם מכל מצוותיי, אתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. ואני אדוניכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, תנאי לכם אמת. Continue now, page 350. Continue to the bottom, the Mi Kamocha, the prayer of liberation, prayer of praise for freedom. Moshe uvnei Yisrael, Chanu shirav simcha rabba v'yamru chulam, Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh norati lo, osefele shira chadasha, shivcho geolim, shemcha asefat hayam, shira chadasha, shivcho geolim, l'shemcha asefat hayam. Yachat kulam odu, yachat kulam odu, v'imlichu v'yamru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. To Yisrael, kulam Yezrat Yisrael, Obdei Chinomecha Yuda beYisrael, V'aleinu Adonai Tzivot Shemo Kadosh Yisrael Baruch Adonai Yisrael. And we're going to rise for the Amidah, page 354. We're going to do the opening blessings of the Amidah together, then the Kedusha, And then for the end of the Kedusha L'Dor V'Dor, I have a musical rendition for us. And then we'll continue silently over to page 364. Hebrew, the English, our own meditations. Adonai Sifatai Tiftach Upiya Gitihilatecha Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Avotenu Eleh Abraham Eleh Yitzchak Eleh Yaakov Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor HaNorah Eleyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim Bekarnei HaKol V'zocheh Chazdei Avot B'nei B'neihem Man Shmo B'Ahava Melech Ozer Mashiach Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Abraham Poked Sarah אתה גיבור ללמד עיניים מחיימתי מטריו לא שיעה מוריד הטל מחלקל חיים בחסד מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך הגבורות ומדם מלך ממיס ומחיה ומשיח ישועה למען התחמית לחיי המתים נקדש שמך בעולם כשם אתה בשמי מרום כתוב היה נביאך כזה ויאמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות לארץ כבודו אז בקול רעש גדול עדי וחזק משמיעים קול מתנסים למצרפים נותן ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבר אדוני ממקומו וממקומך מלכנו תופיע תמלוך עלינו כמחכים אנחנו לך מתי תמלוך בציון covering the Tishkan, Betok Yerushalayim, Dor, Netzach, Netzachim, Irena Malchutecha Kadom Beshirei Ayde Davi Mishikecha Yimloch Adonai Le'olam Elayich Tzion L'Dor Hallelujah. And now the Dor V'Dor.
The door.
And the Dor V'Dor.
נצח ידעו
We continue now. Right.
يسمح مش من
As you're finishing your recitation of the Amidah, you may be seated. And this Shabbat, in the Torah reading portion of Naso, we have the blessing of the priest, Birkat Kohanim. So on Shavuot, I had one rendition of it. I have found this beautiful version, Avram Fried, and it's particularly style done with a Chabad Lubavitcher method. Okay, hold on, we're going to get this up a second, and here we go.
נקל
הלחינו
ונקל.
חסידי הקפליה של האדמו"ר צוי, der mittlere Rebbe, זכוסו יוגן עלינו, sollen wir solche sein zu heden, Birchas Kohanim, בבית המקדוש השלישי, במהרה בימינו, אמן.
Give me 1 second. Should be up. There. Okay. Sound volume.
בבית המקדוש השלישי, במהרה בימינו, אמן.
Volume up there. Microphone's on top here. It's not playing. There's no sound.
חסידי הקפליה של האדמו"ר צוי, der mittlere Rebbe, זכוסו יוגן עלינו, sollen wir solche sein zu heden, Birchas Kohanim, בבית המקדוש השלישי, במהרה בימינו, אמן. Kohanim, יבורכו. Hashem, ay 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 vishmerecho. Ay 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 vishmerecho. Ay 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 Yoel. Ay 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 Yoel. Hashem. Ay 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 oh no. Ay 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 oh no. Ay 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 vichoneko. Ay 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 vichoneko. Ay 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 Hashem, Hashem, ay 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 oh no. Ay 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 ay
Shalom.
Okay. Very strong, a particular melody of ay, ay, ay of the, okay. So now we got two Kohanim. So if you listen, pay attention, we do this a few more times, and then come the next holidays, you'll know how to do it the right way. Okay. So now, Sim Shalom, which is on page 362.
Mūsu koncerta noslēgumā,
Coming to us out of Moscow.
lai skan vēlreiz šis brīnišķīgais duets, Sim Shalom, dāvā mums mieru.
This Sim Shalom we say every day in our prayers. We ask God to give peace.
Мы каждый день произносим эту молитву, и это молитва о мире. Просьба Господа даровать нам мир.
It is a beautiful melody.
Очень красивая мелодия.
And here is the arrangement.
И здесь такая аранжировка.
If you know the melody
Если вы знаете
with
мелодию,
words or without
со
words,
словами или без,
please sing together with me and
пожалуйста, пойте
with
вместе со мной и
Colin,
с Колином.
because you have the opportunity to sing with the symphony orchestra.
У вас уникальная возможность петь вместе с симфоническим оркестром.
Does not happen to you very often.
Не так часто встречается.
But if you do not know the melody,
Но если вы не знаете эту мелодию,
sing it anyhow.
пойте как хотите.
You can sing along.
Sim shalom tova uvracha, leinu machesed verachamim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Amecha. Shalom toiro rocho, leinu machesed verachamim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael,
Avinu, Avinu, Bachenu, Avinu, Avinu, Kolanu keyechad, beyor panecha. Avinu, Avinu, Bachenu, Avinu, Avinu, Kolanu keyechad, beyor panecha. Sim.
Shalom tova
No.
uvracha,
Ay, bye, 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 bye.
Ayendon ve'al kol Yisrael, Amecha. Sim shalom toiro rocho,
Ay, bye, 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 bye,
Leinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Amecha.
Ki be'ubanecha nosato lano. Ay, ki be'ubanecha nosato lano, Hashem Elokeinu. Toiras chaim ve'yavas chesed, otzedaka, uveracha verachamim vechaim ve'shalom. shalom.
Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Amecha. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Amecha. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך.
וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך.
שים שלום תורה וברכה, היבה חסד ורחמים, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, עמך. שים שלום תורה וברכה, היבה חסד ורחמים, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, עמך.
Okay, so a little bit of Freilach music for Sim Shalom. We're going to go ahead now. A little unit of study in Pirkei Avot. Go to page. Okay, behind the page. Chapter 3. Behind the page. Here we go. This page 622, number 7. It's very similar to one that was done before. Talk about, how many people does it take to get divine presence in our midst? So Rabbi Chalafta Ish Kvarchat Nanya Omer, he said, Asra sheshvim v'oskim b'Torah, Shechina shruya b'neihem. 10 who sit and are involved and engaged in Torah, the divine presence is in their midst. And it was when we are in the synagogue and worship a minyan, that's the minimum, God is right here in our midst. We don't need special building. We don't even need the temple. We need 10 people. 10 people brings God down to earth. How do we know? Elohim nitzav b'adat el, quote from Psalms, God is present in the community of God. And the word community, edah, is where we get the idea of a minyan from. How do we get the idea of a minyan? The word edah is used for Joshua and the spies. There are 12 spies. 2 of them say, go into the land of Israel. 10 say no. The 10 are called an edah hara, a wicked company. Well, the word edah is used there. 10, that's where we get the idea of minyan. Minyan. Sephardic Jews still use the word edah rather than minyan for counting. Menayin afilu chamisha. What about 5 Jews? 5 Jews. Enough. Agudato al eretz yasadah. His gathering he has established on earth. And the word agudah is how you grab something. From the word grab something, you grab something with 5 fingers. Hence. What about 3? 3 Jews is enough, right? When we sit down at the dinner table to the Birkat HaMazon, the introduction to Birkat HaMazon requires 3. Right? It's a Rabbatai Nevarech, we need 3. 3 gives God's presence. Shene'emar, B'kerev Elohim Yishpot, God will judge in the presence of the judges. Well, how many judges are there in a court? 3 judges. 3 acts as a court, brings presence of God to us. Menayin afilu shnai, what about 2? It's like Abraham, remember Abraham going down, down, down? Now we're going down to 2. Az nidabru yirei Adonai ish el re'ehu. Then those who fear God will talk each to his fellow. 1 to the other means 2. And God will listen and answer. What if just 1 person? Is 1 enough? Shenemar, b'chol makom asher askeh et shmi, avo elecha v'erechticha. Wherever you mention my name, I will come to you and bless you. Right? So it is by engaging in Torah, engaging in worship, engaging in learning of Torah, that we bring God's presence down to earth. Engaging in mitzvot, we bring God's presence down to earth, or maybe the other way around. We are raising the earth up to God's level. That is beautiful teaching, Rabbi Halafta. And we continue the Kaddish. Joe, you can open the mic. Joe, let you open the mic and lead us page 20 in the Kaddish. The Rabbanan.
Yiskadav Shmei Rabba. Elma Dibur Kurutei V'Yamlich Malchusei B'Chayechon V'Mechon V'Chay V'Chol Beis Yisroel V'Agalav Zman Karim V'Yimru Amen.
Amen.
Yehei Shmei Rabba Mavurach Olam V'Olam V'Olmaya Yisborach V'Ishtabach V'Ispuar V'Isramon V'Isnasei V'Isadar V'Isalei V'Isalo Shmei Kudisha Barichu Le'elam Kol Berachata V'Shirata Tishbachata V'Nechamata Tamaram B'Yom V'Yimru Amen. Al Yisroel V'Al Rabbanan V'Al Talmudayon V'Al Kol Talmudayon Al Kol Man Diva Rasa V'Rasa Diva Harachan Diva Chol Asar V'Asar Yahai L'Chon Shlomo Rabba Chinu V'Chisu V'Rachman Chai Marichim V'Zoynim V'Richu V'Kindumu Nikumum Avohon Diva Bashimayim V'Ayra V'Imru Amen. Yahai Shlomo Rabba Min Shemayim Chai Kol Molaynu V'Akol Yisrael V'Imru Amen. Osei Shalom B'Mramov Ruya Sei Shalom Aleinu Rachma Molaynu Kol Yisrael V'Imru Amen.
Amen. Amen. And we now return to the service, to the order of the service. Torah service, page 394, 394. To speaker screen, 394. And okay, we are all set. Going to do the Torah reading from the table here. When we come to the Aliyot, I'm going to suggest that you stay in your place for the Aliyah instead of trying to come back and forth because it's very crowded here. So we'll have to do it that way. So when you get an Aliyah, you just stand from your place. I've got the Torah blessings here for you. So we're going to continue. Page 394. Ein kamoch b'Elohim Adonai ve'ein k'masecha malchut malchut kol olamim u'mefshaltecha b'chol ador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai yimlach Adonai oz Adonai yitein Adonai yevarech Esav Shalom Avarachamim Eitiva B'Tzion Tivnei Chamot Yerushalayim Ivecha Levavadachnu Melech Erev Adonai. Okay, open the ark. It's inside here. Do we rise? Vayhi Zaharon Vayomer Moshe Kuma Adonai Veyafutzu Oivecha Veyanusu Mechanecha Mitzion Teitzei Torah Mitzion Teitzei Torah Udevar Adonai Yerushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'Kedusho. Continue, page 398, prayer in front of the ark, in the middle of the top of the page. be'anarachetz velish
Lishmei Kadisha
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 Yakira
Yakira
Amatu
Ana
Shechad
Martu
Be'anarachetz
Bechet
Be'anarachetz Velishmei Kadisha Kadisha Yakira Ana Amatu Shechad Yehera Avakadamas Detiftach libi beoraita Vetashlim meshalim delibi Veli barechol amach Yisrael Letahu chayim v'lishlam Amen. And we have the Torah out, and you repeat after me. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Kadosh Shemo. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh
Gadol
Shemo.
Adonai Iti
Gadol
Uneromema Shemo
Adonai
Yachdav.
Shemo Yachdav
Lecha
Lecha
Adonai
Adonai
Hagedula
Hagedula
Hagevura V'Hatiferet V'Hanetzach V'Hahod Icho V'Shamayim U'Va'aretz Icho V'Shamayim U'Va'aretz Lecha Adonai Hamamlacha V'Mitnaseh L'Chol L'Rosh Romemo Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavo L'Adam Raglav Kadoshu Eloheinu Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Okay. Okay. You may be seated. And Joe, and then Barbara, and there's nothing and asking him. Take it off, yeah. Okay, Torah reading. What happened there? Okay, come back. Back to the table. Okay, remove spotlight. Let me do this. Remove spotlight. Now, okay, the camera is dark. Dark. I'm waving. I'm getting you. Okay, so now that you have the mystery screen, you have to guess who's up here talking to you. All right, our Torah reading found on page 500 and okay, found a page. Okay, good. My numbering is off. Facing camera, my camera. Oh, okay. All right. Here we go. 1 second. Here we go. All right. Pardon. Slicha. Okay. Here we are for now. And we're going to be starting chapter 5, verse 11. This is the portion of Naso, the second of the portions in the book of Bamidbar. We wrap up the accounts of who's marching with who, taking count of the tribes of Levi. And then we come to a series of unusual elements. The first one, which is the part that we're actually going to be reading, goes to the question of jealousy. What happens when a husband is jealous of his wife? So I'm going to talk about that. Then we have the law of the Nazir, one who decides, male or female, that they will refrain from wine and cutting of hair. And then the blessing of the Kohanim, right? These three elements. So I'm going to focus back on this element of the ordeal of jealousy. Well, from our perspective, modern perspective, it seems very unfair. We're looking at the 21st century where in a marriage, sort of anything goes. Those of you who survived the 60s and 70s remember the wife swapping thing. That was okay, right? Everything is relative. So we're in a very different era of different, more ethical mores. But what was clear for them, and it's still clear for us, that what they were trying to do for us and what we need to do is reestablish the idea that a marriage is something different than just an overnight. A marriage is something different than just a convenient relationship between friends with benefits. That there is something sacred in the idea of a marriage. Now, this Christianity got from us. Islam takes it from us also. Christianity in the Catholic Church went a step beyond what we were willing to do and said, once done, never undone. We said there are reasonable grounds for separating, dissolving a marriage, compatibility, fights, different things that would be reasonable grounds. But one of the things that the Torah set up was that one doesn't cheat. Well, Torah is full of stories about people who cheat, right? Where we're trying to get order into the civilization. What was done in other societies in the ancient Middle East? And now we can understand this, because in this story, the husband is jealous. He suspects his wife of having an affair with the next door neighbor, brings it to the Kohanim. They take a scroll, parchment, write God's name in the parchment, dissolve it into some water. She drinks the water. And if she's guilty, her stomach expands and she's deathly ill. If she's innocent, she gets to have children as a reward. She's innocent. And the rabbis ask later, then they say, wait, is that fair that it's only done to the woman? And the rabbis say, no. What was done to the woman was done to the man at the same time. When the woman drank, if the man was liable, he also suffered terrible pain, the man who was involved. And if he was innocent, there was no other man, nothing happened. And the husband had to bear the responsibility then for being jealous. Now, let's compare reality. What's reality in the ancient Middle East? When there was a crime against the woman for jealousy, what did they do? How did they solve it? They tied her up and threw her into the river. If she floated, different versions. One version, if she floated, she was guilty. If she floated, she was innocent. Depends how you want to do it. What would you rather have, being thrown into a river or having some water poured down your throat? I think I'd take water down my throat, right? That's it. And later on, the rabbis themselves admitted that at times, like in our modern times where nobody's faithful to anybody anymore, doesn't work. It works only in a time when people actually expect to be faithful and really do commit. So that's a problem for modern times. Well, one other thing. What is here? This is a protection. Husband is in a jealous fit of rage. I remember reading this a few years ago, maybe more than a few years ago. I don't want to say how many years ago. Courts in France decide that if a woman kills her husband out of a jealous fit of rage, she's liable for murder. But if the husband kills the woman out of a jealous fit of rage, that is considered a crime of passion. In the French court system, he is absolved. Okay, that doesn't happen here. There's no jealous fit of rage where he can do whatever he wants. Number two, the ancient Middle East, honor killing. Till today, very active. Nobody speaks out against it. Honor killing is very active in the Middle East till today. Nobody asks questions. You're a suspect, boom, you're beaten up. You've been raped, you're liable, boom, you're beaten up, right? So the idea here is that the woman is to be protected, and that's behind it. Now, what is significant for us is that around the 1st century, there's a kingdom in what is today probably the Kurdish area of Iraq, Mosul, in that area, called Adiabin. And the queen of Adiabin was fascinated by Jews and Judaism, and she and her sons, the kings after her, converted to Judaism. One of the things she's remembered for is donating a tablet in which the ordeal of jealousy was printed on the tablet. Here is a woman who's a pagan woman, becomes a Jew, and what is most fascinating for her is the idea that there's some kind of sacred bond between the husband and the wife, and that God's name would be erased in order to try to verify and then resolve. And that for her as a pagan was the most outstanding thing, right? As a woman. we forget, we don't understand it. One of the reasons that Jews and later Christianity became very popular in the Roman Empire was the women discovered that under the idea of the Bible, they had protection, that they were considered sacred entities, not so as in pagan societies. And so that's one of the major causes for the growth of Judaism and later Christianity in the Roman Empire. So with that, let's go on into the Torah reading. Okay. Okay, we're going to go back. Technical. That's it. Oh, that's easy. Good. All right, now, good. And we've got the Torah here. So I'm going to put my mask back on. Yeah.
At the end of this workshop comes the gift that the tribes get to the temple. And what I want to see is the chronology, because first, when the temple was complete, it seems that 7 or 8 days, Aaron was dedicated to the temple. But then there is an order of the tribes around the temple. Judah is on the east side, then Reuben, and so on. And when the gifts are mentioned, they follow the same order as they go around
The encampment. Very good.
So all of these seem to have happened on the second month, on the second year.
Yeah, it would be at the, B'chodesh Hashvi, right? What does our opening line say? So you have the counting, you have the enumeration, right? B'chod lechodesh hasheni, b'shana hasheni, right? You start of the second month, right? And so in this period, everything is set up. The children of Aaron have been designated. They've gone through their personal purification, 7 days, the tabernacle, and now it's time for the tribes to offer the individual organization. There are 12 tribes, 12 gifts. On the first day of dedication, Hanukkah, my true love, my true tribe gave to me so many oxen, right? That's it, 12.
Yeah.
12. I don't know where 12 nights came in the Christian tradition. But
Yeah.
maybe that was inspired by the sense of 12 tribes giving 12 gifts. Big gifts, pretty big gifts, yeah. All right, gonna go ahead then. Jacob, would you do us the honor? But stay from where you are because it's going to be difficult. I'll do the reading. Here's the blessings. Okay, Jacob, you're our Kohen here. So we're going to start page, and I got to go back to where I was. Page 589.
89, yeah.
89, verses
Verse
11.
Verse 11.
15.
Verse 11.
Through 15. Okay. So I'm going to have to remember what I'm doing. Here you go. Yamod, Yaakov ben, David, HaKohen. Go ahead, the blessing. Baruch Ne'Baruch Ne'Moed.
Baruch Hanam Baruch L'Olam Moed.
Amen.
Amen.
Oh, 1 second. Kavoye.
Right. Dabaruna Moshe Lemo.
1 second.
598.
4 minutos.
Yeah, 598.
98.
In the verse, you say, Rabbi, verse 11?
Yeah.
Dabaruna Moshe Lemo.
1 second. So I'm going to have Jacob Cohen is going to do the first one. Okay, so I will. Amen. וידבר להם משה לאמור דבר בני ישראל ואמרת להם איש כי תסתה אשתו ומעלה בו מעל איש עד איתה ושפע זרעון על המנת האישה ונסתה והיא נטמעת עד בעין בה והוא לא נתפסה והיא לא נתפסה ויעבור עליו רוח קנאה וקנאת אשתו והיא נטמעת או עבר עליו רוח קנאות וקנאת אשתו והיא לא נטמעה ואיש את אשתו אל הכהן והביא את קורבנה על העשירית האחד כמחזירים לא יצק עליו שמן, לא ייתן עליו לבנה, כי מנחת קנאות היא נבחרת זכרו מסגרת אהבון. Okay, Jacob, go ahead. Baruch. The next blessing. The end blessing.
Baruch
Wait.
Baruch.
Amen. Now, Joe, my Levi, Joe, we continue verses 16 through 26, starting with the Kriv Otah till Dort Vishka et Isha et Hamayim. Okay, go ahead, Joe. First blessing.
Baruch Esadonam Baruch. Baruch Adonai Melech Olam Asher Bachabonu Mikol U'amim V'natan Lanu Es Torusoi Baruch Ato Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
לכך
וקריב אותה הכהן ועמדה
הכהן.
עמדה לפני אדוני ולקח פניה קדושים וכלי ארץ ומן העפר אשר יהיה בקרקע המשכן ויקח הכהן נתן אל המים והעמיד הכהן את האישה לפני אדוני וקרע את ראש האישה ונתן על כפה את מנחת הזיכרון מנחת קנאות היא וביד הכהן מי המרים והשביע אותה הכהן ואמר אל האישה אם לא שכב איש איתך ואם לא שתית טמאה תחת אישה הנקי ממי והמרים העלה ואתי שתית תחת אישה וכי נטמאת.
ברוך אדוני מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורה אמת.
Not yet.
חי און נתן בשכנו. ברוך אדוני נותן התורה.
Not yet. וכי נטמא איש כפה את שכבתו מלבב לאישה והשביע הכהן את האישה בשבועת העלה ואמר הכהן לאישה והנה אדוני אותה לעלה לשבועה בתוך עמך בתג אדוני את ירכך נופלת את בטני כפה ובאו המים המרים האלה המרים האלה במאיה לצבאות ניתן ונקבו ירק ואמרה האישה אמן וכתבת על העלה הכתוב הכהן בספר מחה אל מי המרים ושגע את האישה את מי המרים ובא המים המרים לקח הכהן ביד האישה את מנחת הקדות ותמחה לפני ויקראותה אל מספיק גם בעצם הזכרתה ויציאה מזבח הברכה ישקה את אישת המים. Now the blessing. Baruch. Okay.
ברוך אדוני מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורה אמת חי און נתן בשכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Okay. And now continue verses 27 over to 6 verse 4. They're making it difficult for me. Verse 4. Okay, Barbara.
Okay. Baruch Adonai המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך.
ברוך המבורך
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן.
ובאו המים המרים וצפתה בטנה ונפלה לעירך והייתה האישה לעלה בקרב אמר אם לא נטמעה האישה בטהרה היא ונקטעה מזרעה והזרע הזאת תורת הקנאות אשר הסתה אישה תחת אישה ונטמעו איש אשר תעבור עליו רוח קנאה וקנא את אשתו והעמיד את האישה לפני אדוני ועשה לה את כל התורה הזאת וניקה אישה מעוון האישה ההיא תישא את עוונה וידבר אדוני משה לאמור דבר בני ישראל ואמרת לאיש או אישה כי יפנה נזיר לאדוני מיין ושכר יעשה חמץ יין וחמץ שכר לא ישתה כל משנת ענבים לא ישתה מענבים לחים ויבשים לא יאכל כל ימי נזרו אשר יעשה בגפן היד מחרצנים על זד לא יאכל כל ימי נזרו נער לא יעבור על ראשו עד מלאת הימים אשר יזיר להיות עד קודש אדוני יגדל פרע שיער ראשו. Okay. Blessing? Go ahead.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם אתה בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Okay, and
Amen.
number 4. Okay, so go ahead. Verses 5 through 8.
Baruch et Adonai Baruch
Baruch Adonai.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Baharbanu Mikol Anami V'Natan Lanu Et Torato Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen.
Adonai al nafesh מת לא יבוא לאביו ולאמו לאחיו ולאחותו לא יטמע להם במותם כי נזה אלוהי אהב על ראשו כל ימי נזרות קודש הוא לאדוני וכי ימות כל ימי נזרות קודש הוא לאדוני.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torat Emet V'Chayei Olam Nata
V'Sachenu.
Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen.
And now the 5th Aliyah, verses 9 through 15. 9 through 15, page 593. This is the 5th. Right, we're on 5.
ברוך את אדוני המבורך
Baruch Adonai, Baruch
Amen.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ברוך אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו להאמין ונתן לנו תורתו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
כי ימות מת עליו בפתע פתאום וטמא ראש נזרו רגל אף ראשו ביום טהרתו ביום השביעי ויגלחנו ביום השמיני ויבוא שני תורים או שני בני אל פן אל פתח המועד ועשה פן אחד לחטאת ואחד לאלה כיפר עליו נשך על נפשו וקידש את ראשו ביום ההוא והזיר לנו את ימי נזרו והביא כבש בן שנתו לשם בימים הראשונים יפלו כי טמא נזרו וזאת תורת הנזיר זאת תורת הנזיר ביום גלות ימי נזרו ויביא אותו איתו אל פתח המועד וקריב את קורבנו לאדוני כבש בן שנתו תמים אחד לעולם וכבש אחת בת שנתה תמימה לחטאת ואיל תמים לשלמים כל ושם מצות צורת חלות בלוד שמן וכי מצות מושכים בשמן חתן ונזכם ונזכיהם. That's number... Go ahead. Marcel?
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם אתה בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. And 6 verses 16, page 593. Okay. 93 over till 21. And the next page, paragraph on the next page. Okay, so right there. Baruch Adonai Baruch. Baruch Adonai Baruch. Atan b'cholam rabban mikol amim v'natan lanu et torato Baruch Atan noten haTorah. V'ikri v'kohen.
Amen.
ותורתו בית האל יעשה זבח שלמים לאדוני על סל המסות יעשה הכהן את מנחתו ואת נזקו וילך הנזיר פתח המועד את ראש נזירו ולקח את זרח ראשו נזרו ונתן על איש אשר תחת זרע חשלמים ולקח ממנו את הזרע בשתלה מן העיר וחלת המצות אחת מן הסלות ורקיק מצה אחת ונתן כלפי הנזיר אחת והלכו ואת נזרו והניף אותם הכהן תנופה לפני אדוני קודש לכהן על חזה התנופה ואשר כתרומה ואחר ישתה הנזיר יין זאת תורת הנזיר אשר ידו קורבן אדוני על נזרו מלבד אשר השיג ידו נדרו אשר ידו כן יעשה על תורת נזרו. Okay, ברוך אתה בקדוש שלום תורת חיים אתה בתוכנו ברוך אתה נותן התורה. Number 7 Leah, number 7. No, he'll have the maftir. He'll do maftir. So I need the number 7. Robin, would you do us the honors? Give Robin the chart. Give us to Robin. Okay? Well, you get a good one, Robin. You get a good one because you get the Birkat Kohanim, the blessing of the Kohen. Page 594, verses 22 through 27. Go ahead.
Right. תורתו. הייתה ברגע.
כל תברכו את בני ישראל אמור להם, יברך אדוני וישמרך, יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך, יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום, ושם את שמי על בני ישראל ואני אברכם.
חי עולם.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay. All right, we have our Mishabeach for everyone who is ill. Please join with me. I'll recite the prayer, and then we'll join along with the Debbie Friedman rendition together. We pray, Mishabeach Avotenu, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Serif Korechev Leah, Yivarech. May the Holy One who blessed the ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Becker, Richard, and Leah, bless Joe Alexander, Pinchas Beltioskovsky, Miriam Leodorf, Moisey Kelchik, Ronnie Duran, Harriet Levins, Moisey Ben Manya, Barbara Mormon, Judy Alkali, Richard Zeller, Ofer Weinberg, Robert Drato, Roger Rosen, Rachel Flala, Susan Tuchman, Shirley Marco, and Gary Maureen Tucker, Emma Nissan, Chana Batsara, Liba Batsara, Eliab Ben Chana, Herb Mormon, Irina Sepian, Chana Batsara, Chana Sara, Leah, Bad Rachel, Chana Sara, Bat Kaila Alta, Alan Whalen, Haya Nesti, Sophie, the friend of Judy Alkali, Jennifer Fraser, all those afflicted by COVID-19 virus, and those who were injured in the rocket attacks and riots, including here in LA. And please add names. Go ahead, Marcella. Ronald Rothman. Gabi and Tisha Gordichov. Joe?
Sima Harlev.
Sima Harlev.
Ronan Ter Harlev.
Ronan Ter Harlev.
Susan Feinberg.
Susan Feinberg.
Sharon Lipman.
Sharon Lipman.
Esther Rachel Batsiva.
Esther Rachel Batsiva.
Laban Ben Moshe Ben Nasara.
Laban Ben Moshe Nasara.
Shlomo Ben Lazar.
Shlomo Ben Lazar.
And Carl Flex.
Carl Flex. Okay. Any other names? Wendy Keller. And what? Rachel, I have Rachel on the list, but Rachel Bat Ventura, I think, right, in Hebrew. Yeah. Ari Lindman. Okay. So for all of them, we pray, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yishlach Lehem Refuah Shleimah Refuat Nefesh Refuat HaGuf. The Holy One send them healing both in body and in mind to them and to the whole house of Israel, to all who are ill. Let's all say Amen. And we have
Amen.
this rendition of the prayer for healing led by the late
would
Debbie
be
Friedman.
Really hard for me to, especially in these
Sec.
with you. So I'll sing it first for you and ask you not to sing along. And then I'll ask you to join with me and to hold in your minds and hearts the names of those people in your lives in need of healing. And for all of those across the seas, all of those we don't know, and all of those for whom there is no one to ask for blessings of healing and well-being. This is for you. מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. This is still for you. Mi shebeirach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach avotenu. Mi sheberach avotenu. Mekor habracha, mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu. Mi sheberach imotenu. Mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema,
Hold on. 1 second. Excuse me. There we go. Okay. So may everybody find healing. And we continue now the Maftir Aliyah. We're repeating basically the seventh Aliyah, which is the Birkat Kohanim. Dr. Kohn, Yamod. Yitzhak ben Eliyahu, Yitzhak ben Eliyahu, Maftir. Yeah. Yeah.
Baruch Adonai Hanorah.
Baruch Adonai
Baruch Adonai Hanorah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amin v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. וידבר למשה לאמור, דבר אל אהרון ובניו לאמור, כל תורת כל בני ישראל אמור להם, ויחן לי וישמרך, ירא נא פניו אליך ויחונקה, יסוד נא פניו אליך וישמרך שלום, שמו את שמי על בני ישראל ואני אברכם.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו את תורתו, תורת אמת לחיי עולם, נטע בתוכנו. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Okay, and now we'll raise the Torah. Hagdan Megalila. Okay, strong arms. Strong arms. Okay, I'll move out of the way here. Ezot haTorah she'asa Moshe לפני בני ישראל על יד אדוני ביד משה. Hey, fine. Jeff, sit with me. There we go. Okay. So why don't you stand from here? It will be easier. Go ahead. I have the Haftarah book for you already in place. I'm just going to explain the Haftarah taken from the book of Judges, the story of Samson. Samson, besides being the mightiest man on earth of his day, as in the account, and also being sort of a reckless and a wastrel in his behavior, nevertheless, at birth was predicted to be the hero of the people of Israel, and as such, as an indication, he was to be Nazir from birth. He would not let his hair be cut ever. And of course, we have the famous story later of Samson getting trapped, loses his hair, loses his power, and then the last minute, his hairs grow back as he has been captured by the Philistines, brings the whole house down. The first case where the actor brought the house down in history on the entire audience. So, our Haftarah, Dr. Norman, go ahead, it's yours. Let me send the blessings here. I have the blessings here. Go ahead.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר נביאים טובים, ורצה בדבריהם הנאמרים באמת. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בתורה ובמשה עבדו, ובישראל עמו, ובנביאי האמת והצדק. ויהי איש אחד משרעה ממשפחת הדני, ושמו מנוח ואשתו עקרה, ולא ילדה. וירא מלאך אדוני אל האישה, ויאמר אליה הננה את עקרה, ולא ילדת בהרית, וילד בן. ועתה הישמרי נא, ואל תשתי יין ושכר, ואל תאכלי כל טמא, כי הנה חרה, וילדת בן ומורה, לא יעלה על ראשו, כי נזיר אלוהים, יהיה הנער מן הבטן, והוא יחל להושיע אל ישראל מיד פלישתים. ותבוא האישה ותאמר לאישה לאמור, איש האלוהים בא אלי, ומראהו כמראה מלאך האלוהים, נורא מאוד, ולא שאליתוהו, מי זהו, ואת שמו לא הגיד לי. ויאמר לי, הנה חרה, ויולדת בן ואתה, אל תשתי יין, ושכר ואל תאכלי כל טומאה, כי נזיר אלוהים יהיה הנער מן הבטן עד יום מותו. ויתר מנוח אל אדוני ויאמר, כי אדוני איש האלוהים אשר שלחת יבונה עוד אלינו ויראנו מה נעשה לנער היולד. וישמע האלוהים בקול מנוח, ויבוא מלאך האלוהים עוד על אישה, והנה יושבת בשדה, ומנוח אישה אין עמה. ותמהר האישה ותרוס, ותגד לאישה ותאמר אליו, הנה נראה אלי האישה אשר בא ביום אלי. ויקום וילך מנוח אחרי אשתו, ויבוא אל האיש ויאמר לו, אתה האיש אשר דיברת אל האישה? ויאמר, אני. ויאמר מנוח, אתה יבוא דברך, מה יהיה משפט הנער ומעשהו? ויאמר מלאך אדוני אל מנוח, מכל אשר אמרתי אל האישה תשמר, מכל אשר יצא מגפן היין לא תאכל, ויין ושכר אל תשת, וכל טומאה אל תאכל, כל אשר ציוויתיה תשמור. ויאמר מנוח אל מלאך אדוני, נרצה נא אותך, ותעשה לפניך גדי עזים. ויאמר מלאך אדוני אל מנוח, אם תעצרני לא אוכל בלחמך, ואם תעשה הולך לאדוני תעלננה, כי לא ידע מנוח כי מלאך אדוני הוא. ויאמר מנוח אל מלאך אדוני, כי מי שמך, כי יבוא דברך וכיבדנוך. ויאמר לו מלאך אדוני, למה זה תשאל לשמי, והוא פלי. ויקח מנוח את גדי העזים ואת המנחה, ויעל על השעור על אדוני, ומפליל לעצון מנוח ואשתו רואים. ויהי בעלות הלכה מעל המזבח השמיימה, ויעל מלאך אדוני ולאכיו המזבח ומנוח ואשתו רואים, ויפלו על פניהם ארצה. ולא יאסף עוד מלאך אדוני להרע אל מנוח ואל אשתו, אז ידע מנוח כי מלאך אדוני הוא. ויאמר מנוח אל אשתו, מות נמות כי אלוהים ראינו. ותאמר לו אשתו לו, חפץ אדוני לחמיתנו, לא לקח מידנו עולה ומנחה, ולא הראנו את כל האלה, וכעת לא השמיענו כזאת. ותלך האישה בן, ותקרא את שמו שמשון, ויגדל הנער ויברכהו אדוני, ותחל רוח אדוני לפעמו במחנה דן, בין שרה ובין אשתאול. חי גואלנו צבאות, שמו קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך ודבר אחד מדבריך, אכל וישוב ריקם, כי אל מלך ונאמן ורחמן אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הנאמן בכל דבריו. רחם על ציון כי היא בית חיינו, ולעלוות נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני משמח ציון בבניה, סמכנו אדוני אלוהינו ואליהו הנביא עבדך ומלכות בית דוד משיחך במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו על כיסאו לישב זר ולא יהלו עוד אחרים את כבודו כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני מגן דוד על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה לכבוד ולתפארת על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תאמין לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת אמן.
Come now to the section where we pray for our government and for the peace and tranquility of the United States. And then we pray for the peace and tranquility of Israel. It's been a very untranquil week. We know that ceasefires set in between Hamas and Israel. If it will hold, the usual mowing of the lawn, will it hold more than for a few years? We would hope and pray. Would that give time for sane voices to come into place? We would hope and pray. I always ask myself, why is it that we Jews have to go out and explain what the Palestinians are doing? The Palestinians do a very fine job of their own explaining. I always think of myself here in the United States, we are the defense attorneys in this case for the in the court of public opinion for the people of Israel. And our job is to make the case for Israel. The defense attorney doesn't make the job for the prosecution. Let the prosecution do its part. There's plenty of prosecution. So this week, we also saw here, to ruffle the feathers of our world, here in Los Angeles, a physical attack on Jews sitting not far from here, not far from where Barbara lives, a block over on La Cienega, just north of the Beverly Center, group of people sitting. There was a protest during the day, earlier in the day, in that area, Palestinians against Israel, flag waving and in trucks. And some of these guys hanging around waited late at dark, drove up and down La Cienega looking for Jews. And there was this group of Jews sitting, right? A group of Jews sitting. Not far. There's a... At Santa Monica, there's one on the corner. That's right. Yeah. There's what used to be Alan Ed's stereo. Right. There's no Chabad at that corner. And so they call out, any Jews here? And a few people said, yeah, we're Jewish. What about it? And they jump out and start beating. And they said dirty Jews and other curses. Well, if it was one incident out of nothing else, say, okay, a few hotheads. But in New York this week, there were anti-Israel demonstrations. And in the Jewry district, Times Square, the Jewry district, which is an all Jewish area, these demonstrators came in, threw fire bombs, people got burnt, threw bottles, people got cut, went out and hit. Okay, so now we're finally having some reactions. When there was the shooting at the spa in Atlanta, and it was an Asian spa, everybody was ready to jump on, this is a hate crime attack Asians, when the guy had no record of hating Asians, was out for women, to kill women, that's a different story. But it was the entire Asian community was at risk. Now, it has taken a long time for New York Times and the big media people to even recognize and admit it and announce it and talk about it. LA Times finally did have an article, I think Friday or Thursday, but they didn't say anything about what's happening in New York or anything like that. It's like, well, Jews don't count. They're not color. They are the white establishment. That's the impression that we get. So luckily, certainly here, I will say this for City of LA, city leaders have come forward. So I sent an email to city leaders, West Hollywood, District 5, District 4, also Sheriff's Station, and they're very forthcoming in their work. They said they're going to work on combating any acts of hatred against Jews. there was also a meeting here at here yesterday. The Iranian Federation met with the Israel Action Council and the West Hollywood City Hall also. They had an important meeting. So I sent a letter, and this I want to share it with you very quickly. My letter. My dear leaders of West Hollywood, Los Angeles, and Beverly Hills, I'm shocked at the news reports of an anti-Semitic attack on peaceful diners at the Fumi Sushi restaurant, La Cienega, last night. Since this area is at the intersection of Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, and Los Angeles, I'm addressing my concerns to you, representing this immediate neighborhood. I officiated the Rabbi of Hollywood Temple Bethel on the corner of Crescent Heights and Fountain. Heavily trafficked intersection, not popular from popular eateries on Sunset Boulevard. So while we're not directly on the big thoroughfare, all the traffic comes right by us. I'm concerned that there's a wave of physical attacks on Jews that has been intentionally underreported. It has been happening consistently in New York City, and even the New York Times has admitted that it has hidden the true number of incidents. That was reported on in the New York Times itself. That was last year, before the whole fighting broke out, before the pandemic been going on. Now I fear this is spreading to Los Angeles, spurred on by Hamas's unceasing rocket attacks on Israel. I call on city leaders to take active steps to make it clear that any attack on Jews, as Jews, or Israelis as Israelis, is a major hate crime. Just as we could never be silent about attacks on Blacks, Hispanics, or Asians, so too, our leaders must never be silent about attacks on Jews, no matter who the perpetrator. I request that there be increased patrolling during this period around our building, as well as any other visibly Jewish institutions in the area, in the name of peace in our city. Sincerely, Rabbi Norbert Weinberg. Let's see, somebody had something. Yeah. What is this? Okay. Hold on one second. So I just want to run this by quickly. You'll see here a response from Mayor Horvath of West Hollywood. She's writing, also shared her concern, and she put a brief tweet this morning, and she's in contact with the Sheriff's Department, and also talking about support from LAPD as presence during the federal building this week. And there are going to be some major demonstrations for Israel tomorrow at 11 at the federal building in Westwood, and at 3 opposite Beverly Hills City Hall. So if you have a chance to be at one of them, it's very important. What? Yeah, okay, so from the mayor. Thank you for writing, and I share your concern and outrage regarding the actions in La Cienega that were reported last night. My focus has been on action. I did put a brief tweet this morning. She posted the picture of this action, the attack. I've been in close contact with LA Sheriff's Department, and we've spoken at length about the preparations to keep our city safe. They also have to ready provide support to LAPD in their response to reports from last night. Also present at the federal building action this week, they've received additional briefings, keeping them appraised of local, regional, and national trends. Also communicated with local organizations representing American Jewish, Israeli American communities present in our city and region. Make myself available to you as well. Previously worked with the U.S. Conference of Mayors on the national statement against anti-Semitism, been signed by the U.S. mayors nationwide. Been in touch with the director from International Combat Anti-Semitism Movement as recently as this morning about the action of last night. We're all on high alert. I stand united with you against the wave of anti-Semitism and violence that we are experiencing. While we are a community that embraces free speech, acts of hatred and violence are not welcome and not tolerated. Please let me know if you'd like to speak further about this issue. Leslie Horvath, Mayor of West Hollywood, very forthcoming. And then I did get also a statement from the Office of District 4, that is Nithya Raymond, Council Member Nithya Raymond. The office condemns all acts of hate of all kind. They're also working with LAPD in that area. That's up Sunset as we go further east. Councilman Koretz himself was on the Zoom call Thursday with the Jewish community and the CSI, which is the security organization that works with the Jewish community. And the sheriff's station also, LA, the commander here, Lieutenant Mulder, been very forthcoming. We appreciate your words, because I sent him a nice word about thanking our police. We want to do everything we can to ensure everyone's safety, and I called them this morning to make sure that they have enhanced patrolling. LAPD, by the way, I noticed yesterday, Friday, they had a police car stationed in front of every synagogue. Ready. All right, and this was the picture that going on Fairfax, they had police cars stationed. Okay, just on the radio. Yeah, this is the picture of that incident.
Rabbi, can you tell us at what time tomorrow?
Okay, so 11 o'clock in the morning at the Federal Building out on Westwood, and at 3 o'clock in Beverly Hills by the Beverly Hills City Hall, right opposite the City Hall. So that's they call Beverly.
11 and 3.
Garden. Okay, so either one that you can make. So with that, I feel really our prayer for the well-being of our city is even more important than in the past. My Siddur, hold on, and for a walk. Yeah. So on page 415 for our country, for this country, which is our country, that gave us safety and in the past, and security may continue to do so. Page 414. I want to read together, please. Eloheinu ve'Elahei Avotenu, kabel na b'rachamim. Our God and God of our ancestors, we ask your blessings for our country, for its government, for its leaders and advisors, and for all who exercise just and rightful authority. Teach them insights of your Torah that may administer all affairs of state fairly, that peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom may forever abide in our midst. Creator of all flesh, bless all the inhabitants of our country with your spirit. May citizens of all races and creeds forge a common bond in true harmony to banish all hatred and bigotry. Safeguard the ideals and free institutions which are the pride and glory of our country. May this land under your providence be an influence for good throughout the world, uniting all people in peace and freedom and helping them to fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
And for the people of Israel, the state of Israel, I want to share this beautiful rendition of the prayer for Israel. You have the page. They don't have it in here for you. Page 416 on the top. Okay, it's Cantor Rachel Goldman.
Israel
Beautiful voice, beautiful voice. Going to return the Torah to the ark now. So turn to page 422. 422. And march and put it right back on the stand. You can put it back in the ark, actually, if you can do that. Okay. Yalelu Shem Adonai, Kinis Gav Shem Levado, Hoda Leretz V'Shamayim, Vayarem Keren Le'amo, Tehila Lecha Chasidav, Livnei Yisrael Am Krova, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Mizmor David, Havu Adonai, B'nei Elim, Havu Adonai, Kavados, Havu Adonai, Kevod Shemo, Ishtachavu Adonai B'Hadrat Kodesh, Kamayim Melech Avodirim, Adonai Amayim Rabim, Kol Adonai Ba'akach, Kol Adonai Be'adar, Kol Adonai Shaver Arazim, V'Shaber Adonai Et Razeh Havanon, Yakinim K'megevom V'Siryon Kemo Ben Remim, Kol Adonai Chotzev Lavotesh, Kol Adonai Yachem Midbar, Yachil Adonai Midbar Kadesh, Kol Adonai Choleh Layolot, Echsof Yorecho Kolo Omer Kavod, Adonai Lamabul Yashav Vayeshev Adonai Melech Leolam, Adonai Oz Li'amo Yitein, Adonai Yivarech Et Amo V'Shalom. And we go and put the Torah in. Uv'nocho Yomar Shem Et Ha'ayim Hi Lama Chazikim Ba V'tom Cheha Me'usha Deracheha Nacheinam V'chol Netivoteha Shalom Ashiveinu Adonai Elecha V'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. And you may be seated. Thank you, Marcella. Okay, so please be seated. I'm going to do my study unit now, and then we'll finish up Aleinu and Eike Eloheinu and the happy, happy theme. Go to share screen here and pull up my topic for today, which is continuing in my theme of great Jewish thinkers, great Jewish minds coming into the modern age. And how did we get the Jewish world that we have as it is today, primarily in the United States, which is a consequence of what happened, as I spoke last week, by this little guy by the name of Moses Mendelssohn, who opened the gates of Europe to Jews and opened the gates of good. What is my phone doing? Hold on. Okay, good. I love these phones that turn on themselves. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Good. Oh boy. All right. Silence. Technology. Oh. Okay. You know what they say is in technology is perfect, but garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have the right input, that's what you're going to get. So anyway, we have what is called, in Marxist thought and in Hegelian thought, was called the dialectic. Any of you ever took your political science classes? In Marx in particular, it's a very formal form that we've got to accept. We have a thesis, which is the situation, which is, in Marxist thinking, economics. Then you have the antithesis, which is the reaction to that. And then you have the synthesis, which is a response, which creates a new thesis, and you go on again and again. And in Marx, it is economic systems, agrarian to feudal, to mercantile, to the capitalist, and to the ultimate, to the working class, the proletarian. But Marx took it from thinkers like Hegel, from not economics, but the idea is what takes shape. Our collective grounds of thought, the way we think. And Hegel said in history, we've got cycles, but the cycles go forward. Like we go from, in particular, he's talking about freedom, from absolute dictatorship of the pharaoh, moving towards the breakdown of the feudal societies to the beginnings of early democratic societies in Europe, down to, in his idea, the ideal Prussian state of his day, where it was a monarch, but you had a parliament, and so on. So devolution of power to the people. So this is the kind of thinking that's going on. So we have this response. So there's a scholar, Jewish scholar, sitting in Galicia by the name of Rabbi Nachman Krochmal, and he's looking at these, and he's saying, why is it that, yeah, okay, the Egyptians came and went, the Romans came and went, everybody else came and went. How come we're still around? Because we should have disappeared. I mean, that's the general consensus of historians until modern times. We should have disappeared, but we didn't. Why not? Why not? And he said, well, it's not like we think that we've always been exactly the same since the time of Moses, but rather that we have been constantly rising to challenges and creating new adaptations to those challenges, and those have been successful, and they move us on to the next stage. He called his book Moreh Nevuchei Hazman, like Rambam, Maimonides, Guide for the Perplex of Our Time. So he's talking about, let's look at really what have we been doing? We have been reacting. There's a thesis, is what is this? There's an antithesis, and we have a new synthesis. We move on and develop. We're not frozen. And then he asked the book not to be printed in his lifetime because he thought it would be too controversial in the Jewish community in Galicia. It was printed after he died. Well, Moses at Mendelssohn, it was before this fellow, the end of the 1700s, right? There's a phase of shock for the Jews. Gates of Berlin are open. So what then? What's the response of the Jewish world? It's not just in Europe. It takes time, but it goes a few decades later. It is like Krachmal, a few decades later into Galicia, and into Poland, and into the Ukraine. It takes a long time, not a long time, delay of decades, maybe 100 years. Into Jews of North Africa and the Middle East also. All of these ideas, reason, nationalism, human rights, they're taking root in the Turkish world, in the Arab world, is beginning to get some kind of national consciousness, and in the Jewish world, also in the Middle East, where we see among Mizrahi Jewry also the same impact. It's not as pronounced there because to some great extent, they were not as cut off from their world as the European Jews were, right? And also their approach to Halacha is not as extreme. You talk to any Sephardic rabbi and you get a much better answer than you get from an Ashkenazic rabbi. Very simple. So the shock was not as great there either. Now, so Jews are given this up. Do we want civil rights? And you say, yeah, we'll jump for it. Napoleon, who opened the gates of one of the ghettos in Italy, he's looking at the Jewish community. He gathers a great Sanhedrin and he asks the question, are you Jews French or not? I have 12 questions for you. There's a long list of them. Will you marry our women? Right? That's one of the great questions. And so on. But the main questions, the really concerned questions are, in the eyes of Jews, are Frenchmen not of the Jewish religion considered as brethren or strangers? Are you willing to be brothers with us? Number one. Number two, what conduct does Jewish law prescribe towards Frenchmen not of the Jewish religion? Will you apply the same rules to us as you apply to yourselves? Number three, do Jews born in France, treated by the law as French citizens, acknowledge France as their country? Are they bound to defend it? Are they bound to obey laws and follow directions of civil code? This is very important because this is a precedent for all minorities everywhere around the world. We're setting it up. Okay, civil rights. If we're going to consider you brothers, are you going to act as brothers? We want to know. That is not true today in many parts of the world. Right? A lot of this fell apart. But that's the precondition for civil society. So their response, they said, well, we're not going to marry your daughters because we marry within our religion. Okay, fine. But every Israelite is religiously bound to consider his non-Jewish fellow citizen as brothers and to aid, protect, and love them as though they were co-religionists. That the Israelite is required to consider the land of his birth or adoption as his fatherland, shall love and defend it when called upon. In World War I, when Jews were on both sides of the line in World War I, on the French side and the German side, the French Jews were fighting for France, the German Jews were fighting for Germany. When they had a ceasefire, they got together, got a minyan for the dead, and they went back. Right? I mean, this is Dina de Melchuta Dina. This is actually reenacting what was a classic Jewish position. Whatever country we're in, We accept the laws of that country. We are loyal to that country. Our job is not to overturn and make that country Jewish. We are not out for jihad. We are not out for mass conversion to the one faith. Christian, Muslim, doesn't matter. That's not our job, right? And that set the precedent for us. So now, Jews asked the question though, opening the gates, wait a minute, it's a little nerve-wracking. So when Napoleon invaded Russia, there was a great debate in Eastern Europe. Is Napoleon the Messiah? He's opening the gates for us. Or is he Gog and Magog, is the anti-Messiah? Because he's going to smash up our Jewish institutions. A great debate in East Europe among the Hasidim, for example. Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav thought this was really the end of days. Napoleon was the rebirth of some great tzaddik, some great noble soul. And they said that the Hasidim could see the image of the Rebbe of Nemirov standing beside Napoleon during his battles in their visions. On the other hand, most of the East European Jewish leaders, including the founder of Chabad, Rabbi Schneerson, the original Schneerson, Zalman, opposed the French ruler. We are right. We're under the Tsar. We're loyal to the Tsar. But not only that, we're afraid that opening the gates will open up Jews to contamination, to the ideals of the French Revolution, the wrong way. So we'd rather stay within our shtetl, within our ghetto, because that's the only way we will survive. So, two responses. Okay, so now, that becomes, by the way, a novel by Martin Buber, Gog and Magog, considered one of his best books. So what kind of response do we have to the opening of the West? Well, we can go and we can reject the ideas of the West. We don't have to reject citizenship, but we can reject the ideas. Yeah.
The question is, will the Jews in the ghetto because of their own choice, or they want to
I'm going to say, I'm going to give you a very bad example. I'm going to give you a very bad example. When a dog, you have a dog as a pet in the house. If you have a cage for that dog, the dog gets used to the cage. You open the cage, dog walks right in. Security. So we're forcing the ghetto. On the other hand, it gave us security. So it's a two-way street. Two-way street. So rejectionist, the rejectionist right? This is an intellectual movement. Hadash asur min Torah. That which is new is forbidden already in the Torah. Moses already forbade the organ. Moses already forbade the mixed seating. Right? He already forbade it. Leading figures, Hatam Sofer and Rabbi Kiva Eiger, for example. This is Central Europe and somewhat extent Eastern Europe. Hatam Sofer, anybody know anybody by the name of Schreiber? Generally, they're descendants of the Hatam Sofer. Sofer in Hebrew, a scribe. Hatam, he signs as a scribe, that's his name. And scribe in Hebrew is Schreiber. So you meet people named Schreiber, they're generally descendants. He's from Frankfurt, my birth town. Okay, that's the claim to fame. He established himself in what was Pressburg, which is now Bratislava in Slovakia, then it was Hungarian territory. And the slogan, that which is new was already forbidden in the written Torah. And his job, he said, it was to make a no-holds-barred attack, no concessions to modernity. All right, it was very strong. He pumped effort and resources into education, into better schooling, better yeshivas. He made sure that his best students were appointed to rabbinic positions wherever he could to act as a barrier wall against the encroachment of modernity. Right? And so he put this breach, a very powerful breach between the Orthodox and non-Orthodox sectors. And one of his things was to stop the war between the Hasidim and the Misnagdim. The Hasidic community was considered by the establishment rabbis as rebellious. And I said, wait a minute, we're both rebelling against the same thing, against disloyalty to God. We're on the same wavelength. That war was finally put to bed. It was a vicious war. The Rebbe of Chabad, the first founder of Chabad, was put into jail by his opponents, right? That war is ended. We're now together putting up the breach against modernity. So he dissociated himself from the battle of emancipation. So we should not be rushing to be citizens with all the equal rights. Equality is a sign of dissatisfaction with our role as a community and as Jews. It's a desire for assimilation into the Gentile culture, right? And if you had secular education, it was only as much as needed for trade or profession, not beyond that. claim to fame. So he married he married the daughter of the greatest Talmudist of his day, Rabbi Kiva Eger. That's my mother's great grandfather. Okay, now I give you my yichus. Okay, put this picture up there. Okay, the other route. The other route was reform, which was, could one be a Jew and a member of European civilization without being a Christian? Now, I mean, one route was, since Christians were no longer such Christians, one could be a Christian. Heinrich Heine did it, Karl Marx's father did it, Benjamin Disraeli's father did it. Okay, no difference anyway. We're still Jews in the eyes of the Gentiles, but we can get into law school. By the way, this was true till in South America, till recent times. I have a friend who, he and his brother grew up in Argentina. He wanted to be an engineer, wanted to go into engineering school, but to do that, you had to go through the Air Force. But the Air Force was only to Catholics in Argentina, open only to Catholics, could not go to engineering school, so they ended up in the United States as a solution. Right? So that's even in our times. So what was changing? Oh yeah, one could be, and here's the push, return to prophetic Judaism, the prophets only, because the Christians like the prophets too. It doesn't distinguish us from Christians, it unites us with Christians. One would be a Jew of the Mosaic persuasion, Deutscher Mosaisches Glaubens. Right? There's still today, by the way, in Sacramento, conservative congregation, the synagogue of Mosaic law, right? That term Mosaic. So it began with baby steps in Germany, decorum in the synagogue. People weren't going to run around anymore. The sermon would be given in German. Service was a bridge shortly. Not big steps, not big steps. But then they went further. In Hamburg, that was the first big one, the temple there. They removed the prayers for return to Zion. We are Germans. Well, there's no such thing as Germany yet. You know, there's Hessen and there's Bavaria and there's Prussia, but okay, we're all of those. And there's the introduction of the organ. And not yet complete abandonment of halakha, but it comes. Women were still in the balcony. Not until the move of German Jews in the 1840s. You know, there was a tremendous rebellion in Germany, revolution, uprising that failed in the 1840s. A lot of German Jews fled. That became the basis for the new Jewish community that was heavily Germanized in the 1840s, and that gave rise to American reform. And the women moved to the balcony because there was a fire in the building that they were using, and they moved into a church, and there was no balcony in the church. Rabbi Isaac Meir Weiss. It was an accident, and it stuck. But in Germany, there still were balconies. So, for example, my father's synagogue, where he served as the first state rabbi, had the largest, it's the second largest pipe organ in Germany. There you can see a picture of the choir and the pipe, or the pipes, huge pipes behind them. And still, it's not there anymore because the community has become Orthodox. All the liberal Jews were killed off by Hitler or escaped, and they were replaced by East European refugees. And so the balcony, though, is still there. Most has been refurbished, but there's the women's balcony. That is in use, right? As I said, it's now an Orthodox synagogue. Well, prime figure here in this figure, Rabbi Avraham Geiger. He became a rabbi in Breslau. Breslau is a part of Poland that became Germany when they swallowed up the country, and it disappeared, basically. So in Breslau, he established a school for religious studies, and active in the synods. There were councils that were getting together 1845 and 1846. And it was these synods that enacted decisions that led the more Orthodox Jews, including his friend Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, to separate from the reformers. So we'll talk about them later. So they set out to eliminate from Judaism every mark of national uniqueness. So the goal was to live a lifestyle that brought holiness into the modern world, but it would be a world of science and truth. So all the outmoded rabbinic legislation had to be re-examined on the basis of reason, morality, and modernity to be acceptable. So if a practice separated the Jew from the modern world, there was the obligation to renounce that practice. You would no longer dress like a Jew. You no longer eat like a Jew. You no longer worship maybe like a Jew, right? All of Jewish tradition was an evolutionary process. And each generation had to create an expression that enacted eternal ethical laws of Judaism. All right, so you don't need the kosher. You get rid of the kippah and the talit and the tefillin because those are accoutrements that we don't need. And the references to Zion is taken out. The reference to a personal Messiah, reference to the resurrection of dead removed. The references to the sacrifice removed. And he always tried to get rid of the prayer in Hebrew, but there he couldn't convince them to get rid of Hebrew completely. And they also almost got rid of circumcision, but they kept that too. The second things you don't touch. Okay, you don't go down there. And then
What's left?
that's it. Now then, this anti-circumcision move is big now. It's coming up big now. So anyway, they believed in this with a messianic passion. It wasn't just that they were looking for an easy way in. They really believed in the ideals of the Enlightenment, of the European Enlightenment, of what's called the early liberal society. They believed they would save Judaism from stagnation. And to some extent, they were right, because what they had been left with, it was this kind of rejectionist, stiff orthodoxy or stiff unbendingness, right? So they were going to save Jews from it. Well, guess what? Not all Jews liked that idea, including the great friend of Rabbi Geiger, Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch. So we call what's called Neo-Orthodox, the renewed orthodoxy. So it's in line with the European thoughts. European rationalism also had gone overboard. Any of you remember who are the great poets of English literature of the 19th century, Byron and Shelley? They are the Romantics. Romanticism was a return to the heart, a return to the emotions, a return to the imagination. And this was going through Germany, and Jews are affected by that. Pure reason is not satisfactory. It doesn't give us food. And so we have, for example, this movement, Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, founder of the Perushim. Perushim, the Pharisees. Pharisees meaning Poresh. I separate myself now from the rest of the community. The community's gotten lost. I'm going to be correct. I'm not going to be rejectionist, but I'm not going to get caught up by the rest of the crowd. So we can't stomach the reforms. They got the local government to give them political recognition. Remember that in Europe, the church is a government institution. You have a Gemeinde, Kultusgemeinde, your religious entity. So the church state has to recognize it. They got separate recognition from the rest of the Jewish community. And they combined modern culture and education with an ironclad adherence to Jewish law. So he went along with the Romans some days, right? He wore clerical robes, had a choir, male only, shaved his beard. Before there were electric razors, which means he was using something like a blade, delivered sermons in German, encouraged study of the Bible, as opposed to emphasizing Talmud. Back to the Bible. And it got rid of even Kol Nidre, because he said, look, it is not authorized by the Talmud. It creates confusion. So this is the young Rabbi Hirsch. You can see here, where's his yarmulke? It's his wig, the perike, the wig. And when he was invited to come to the Kaiser to greet him, he bowed down to him. It is said, without any hat covering, because that's not appropriate, but he was wearing his wig. And he said the wig is a head covering. Therefore, it's fine. Right? Torah Derech Eretz, that is their theme. Torah, together with the ways of the world, the secular world. In the context of the Mishnah, Derech Eretz means work, but he meant engagement with Western culture while maintaining adherence to the Torah. Great balance, very difficult balance. He created the idea of the Israel Mensch, the Jew, the decent Jew, the upstanding Jew, right? An enlightened religious personality. So you could do non-halachic changes, superficial changes, but you wouldn't touch the existence, the core of Jewish belief or halacha. We go. Yeah.
During that time, I don't know, there's another section which is not mentioned here, which is an affiliated Jew. They feel Jew, but they're not affiliated to anyone, any philosophy, any Orthodox or modernist or Reform. They feel Jew, but they're not connected to the Synod of themselves.
You're talking about today?
Well, but I assume that also happens in Germany.
You're in or out. Not yet. You still have to be identified with something. Otherwise, you were with the socialists. You would be with the socialists. Or you would be with the Bundists, right? So you would be one of those movements, later Zionists. Yeah. So that would be the social national, but more towards East Europe, more towards East Europe. Huh? Germany to some extent, but the big movement is in East Europe. That's where you get it. That's where you get the two leaders after Lenin of the Soviet Revolution. You've got Trotsky, and there's three. It's Zinoviev and Kamenev, right? There you get it. All right, so his most famous work, 19 Letters of Ben Uziel. There he is a little bit older. A letter from a rabbi to a young intellectual, and he talks about the challenges of emancipation and sets up the key elements of God, man, and Jewish history, discussion of mitzvot, classifications. It was very, very popular book in its day. And this modern Orthodox camp would have its own rabbinical seminary in Berlin, Hildesheimer Rabbinical Seminary, Rabbiner Seminar für das orthodoxe Judentum in Berlin. Afterwards, his son-in-law took over, and if any of you have ever lived in Manhattan, I don't know if they're still active or not, but the Upper West Side of Manhattan, as you go towards Washington Heights, heavily German Jews, that is Breuer's Gemeinde. They're still speaking German for a long time. They're the ones who came right before and after Hitler settled there, and still had, and you could identify them because they were all dressed very well, went to the opera, were educated, highly educated, but very meticulously observant. Right? So that's one of the reactions. Then you've got the academic reaction, Wissenschaft by itself, just academics. One of the reformers, Leopold Zunz, whose function, he said, was mainly to examine, using modern academic methods, the study of Jewish sources, Bible, Talmud, Midrash, philosophy, and halakha, and examine sources, the way academicians study sources, the way scientists study bacteria, we're going to study Judaism. And it was very important because we did get rid of a lot of cobwebs. However, he is remembered as the scholar who said the task of Jewish study is to provide the remnants of Judaism with a decent burial. In other words, many of them felt this was the end of Judaism, that with the opening of the gates of Europe, Jews would vanish. And so we want to at least do honor to the traditions before we blend in. And was attacked, by the way, later on by great Jewish thinkers. Gershom Scholem, for example, he considered them grave diggers. Okay. So, but this word Wissenschaft, my father's rabbinical school, Hochschule für die Wissenschaft des Judentums, the Academy for the Scientific Study of Judaism. Right? It was, we might call it liberal, progressive, was under Rabbi Leo Beck in my father's time, but it also included Orthodox scholars, as well as critical scientific scholars, you may say. So, middle road, there's always a middle road, right? You take the high road, and I'll take the road, and I'll take the middle road in between. There's always going to be a middle road. I say thesis, synthesis, antithesis. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. That's it. Boom, 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 boom. It's a middle road, which said, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's what's now called conservative Judaism, and today called positive historical school. Positive historical? Why historical? We accept that there's an analysis of development of Judaism we can study analytically and critically, but positive, we are looking positively at the traditions and the heritage that we have. We're not going to abandon them. We're going to study why and how and see what needs to be done based on that study. We're not going to be rejectionists. We're not going to be frozen in halakha. We're not throwing out the baby with the bathwater to do it. So big figure here is Zacharias Frankel, Chief Rabbi of Dresden, for a proponent of what might be called moderate reform, but he broke with his radical colleagues in 1845 on the issue of Hebrew language as the language of prayer. It's very interesting. In the United States, where was the break between the conservative and the reform? In 1880, where they established the Hebrew Union College, union meaning they were going to bring the reformers and the traditionalists together. And at the college, somebody forgot to tell the waiters not to bring out the shrimp. And at that point, the traditionalists walked out. And that's where, right? Hey, what you do at home is your job. At the rabbinical school, at the opening? Okay. That's how you got to watch what you cook. So, huh? No, it's more unkosher than the pig. Okay. So this is the big fight. He called for positive historical Judaism, right? The positive side, the ceremonial substance of Jewish practice while allowing for moderate change, and an attitude of respect for the historical nature of Judaism. We're developing, responding. So the loyalty of generations of the past has weight as much as a proof text from an authoritative source and the needs of the community today. So he established also, notice each one has a rabbinical school. So is the Reform, to a great extent, the Wissenschaft school, whereas Hildesheimer and Breslau, Jüdische Theologisches Seminar, right? This is the word seminary rather than yeshiva, indicating this attempt to be academic in its approach. There's one in Vienna also using that term, but the big one was in Breslau. So they trained what was the classic historic conservative movement in Europe. So what we've got here in the United States is an outcome of what happened in Germany in the 1800s. So, by the way, today in Germany, there is an Abraham Geiger rabbinical school, because all the institutions were wiped out by the Nazis. So there's an Abraham Geiger rabbinical school, which is a Reform in Berlin, and there's a Charis Frankel rabbinical school, conservative. A friend of mine is running it now. There are some Orthodox schools also. All of these completely new, the original community wiped out. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Even though they study this scientific and the Jewish tradition, were they required to pray, or were they required to have some kind of formal traditional prayer?
Yeah, so what you had was, and again, taking the text of the prayer book, retaining the Matbeh Shel Tefillah, the format of the prayer, here and there adjusting and adopting. For the conservative prayer book as we have it is the outgrowth of it, right? So we did not remove the prayers for the return to Zion. We did not remove the idea of a Messiah from it. We did not remove the references to resurrection of the dead. We did not remove it. We retranslate sometimes, didn't remove it. We made some technical adjustments. So where it comes to the sacrifices, we recall the sacrifice instead of praying to renew the sacrifice. Slight technical adjustment. Otherwise, the format is the same. Hebrews retained as the core of the service. Kashrut, some technical adjustments in kashrut. So you generally, except you eat dairy in restaurants, for example, we're not going to be so picky. Cheeses, again, these are more superficials. Use of wines, more superficials. But still, general idea that the commitment to Jewish observance is still at the core, rather than accepting a certain set of beliefs. Right? Mendelssohn was saying we don't have any beliefs. We just have an observance. Right? And their Orthodox Jews to follow that. No, we're going to say, wait, we have our observances and we have some core historic beliefs that we can call on. So that would be a description. Now, obviously in America, the 20th century, the 21st century, the lines become blurred. Things that the conservatives did, the Reform adopted. Things that the Reform did, the conservatives adopted. Things that both movements did, the Orthodox adopted. So there's obviously a lot of back and forth among the movements. And today, to some extent, at least between the Reform and conservative reconstructions, the lines are more blurred than they were. Yeah, and probably there's going to be some kind of merging. I don't know if it'll be really merging, but more a blending of the approaches. But then when you got Jews, you got to have 2 or 3 opinions anyway, so I don't see them disappearing as separate movements. Okay, so that's it. So we move on to, that's how we get to where we are in the Jewish world.
Now, coming back to our days, we have several very well-defined sects, conservatism, Orthodox, although there's much more detail about that. But is there any kind of new tendency that's coming today?
A million. New Age.
People who are not that related somehow.
You've got
Anything that they do to consider to Jews?
all over the place. There's the New Age movement. Actually, that's not new. That started with the 60s with Karl Bach and Haight-Ashbury and the take acid, and so on movement. It started to affect Jews. We had mysticism and anything goes Judaism. You got everything across the board. Every experiment across the board exists. All right, that is basically, I mean, you still have these three trends, but we're getting some odd movements also. Yeah.
Ask me to like this one to open here, it's okay?
We should leave that one. That one's changed. Leave that one. We're going to finish up soon. We'll leave that one. We can close it. We can close that one a little bit. Yeah.
Here, it's okay?
Leave it closed. Because that one's too open. Okay. Yeah, good question. All right, so let's go ahead. We're going to wrap up our service. Going to go ahead. Enke Eloheinu and Cantor Propus. Go ahead. Enke Eloheinu is on page 508. 508. Yeah. Just, oh, okay. 508. Enke Eloheinu with Cantor Propus.
Adonenu, Michem Malkeinu, Michem Moshienu. Ay, dai, dai, da, da, dai, 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 da, da, dai, 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 da, da, dai, dai. Ay, dai, dai, da, da, dai, 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 da, da, dai, 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 da, da, dai, dai. Nodel Eloheinu, nodel Adonenu, Malkeinu, nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Ay, dai, dai, da, da, dai, 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 da, da, dai, 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 da, da, dai, dai. Ay, dai, dai, da, da, dai, 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 da, da, dai, 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 da, da, dai, dai. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shehiktiru Avoteinu Lefanecha Et Ketoret HaSamim. Ay, dai, dai, da, da, dai, 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 da, da, dai, 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 da, da, dai, dai. Ay, dai, dai, da, da, dai, 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 da, da, dai, 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 dai.
Boom, boom, boom. Thank you, Cantor Propus. And we go back to conclude here. Aleinu, page 510. Aleinu. Let's join in. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol. Take kedula yotzei b'reishit. Kelo asanu haratzon. Velo shemanu k'mishpachot adama. Kelo samchelkeinu kahen. V'gor aleinu kechol
אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים מועדים
לפני מלך מלך המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים יוסד הארץ ומושב יקרם בשמיים ממים ושכינתו זו וגוי מרומים Eloheinu
Eloheinu,
ein
Ein,
Ememakenu
Masmalkeinu, Epezulato,
Kakatu
Katibu
Torah
Betorato,
Hayom
Vedatayom,
Hashivota
Shashivotro,
Elevavecha Ki
Ki
Adonai
Adonai,
Elohim
Hu Elohim,
Basham
Bashamayim Mimam,
Yalaretz Yalaretz
Mitachas
Mitachot
Ein,
Einot. Nema
Hoyu
Adonai
Adonai,
Lemelech
Melech
HaKaretz
Haaretz,
Bayom Ahu
Bayom Ahu,
Yeh Adonai Echad
Adonai
O Shema O Shema O Shema Echad O Shema Echad. May be seated. We extend our condolences to Harriet Levins and to Jennifer Levins. Harriet's aunt passed away, Elaine Goldsmith. She was 98. So it's Harriet's aunt and great aunt of Jennifer. Also, I mentioned, Irma Smith passed away this month. Margalit Sadok, Vera Levy, Chaim Levy, Ilanit Bat Yitzchak, Harry Kyle, and Davis Wenkert, and Jack Petsko, and the victims of COVID-19, the victims of Hamas violence. And we also record the yahrzeit this week, also from the Levins family, Cyril Frank, the sister of Harriet Levins, and the aunt of Jennifer Levins. May their memories be for a blessing of the bond, souls bound up in the bond of eternal life. Those reciting the... Wait 1 second. Yes. Yes, Irma Smith was the woman who worked here in charge of catering and worked with us in many, many things and getting things done here, smoothing the way for us with our landlord. Okay, and Joe, yes, you have another name. Joe.
Yeah, Rachel Meilman.
Rachel?
Meilman.
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 Meilman. So may they be Eliyahu, Ben Yitzchak, Ilanit, Bat Yitzchak. Okay.
Rabbi, I left
Yeah.
you a chat message about a friend of mine.
And your friend is,
She's not Jewish, but she passed away this morning.
what was her name?
Christian, and her mom's name was Yvonne.
Christian, daughter of Yvonne. May the memories be for a blessing. May the souls bound up in the bond of eternal life. And those who are reciting the Kaddish, it is found on page 512. May you recite with me. Yit Kadal, V'yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'yama Divra Chirutei, V'yamlich Chutei, V'chayechon, V'yamechon, V'chayei D'chol Beit Yisrael, V'agalav V'zman Kariv V'imru Amen, Ye'ei Shmei Rabbo Vorach Le'olam L'mei Amaya, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yipa'ah, V'yitramah, V'yitnaseh, V'yit Hadar, V'yit Halal, Shemei Dikucha Berichu, Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata, Tush B'chata V'nechemata, Namyon V'yama V'imru Amen, Hey Shlomo Rab Amin Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu V'akoyse V'imru Amen, Ose Shalom Bimram, Uyase Shalom Aleinu, Uyase V'imru Amen. Amen. And we're going to wrap up now with Adon Olam. Okay, next week, God willing, we're back in place. We're starting to get our foot in the water safely, step by step. By mid-June, the state promises to lift all restrictions on masking and spacing and so on. And apparently the county will finally be in coordination with that. So we'll follow the directions and proceed accordingly. This week, a reporter from the Jewish Journal is going to be meeting with me, wants to know how we're handling this. And I say we have the best video technician here. Okay. I had clients, one of the top videographers, award-winning videographer of Hollywood. Maybe I'll set you up with him. Rodrigo. Okay.
Rabbi, I thought the Jewish Journal, I thought they're closed.
It's online. They're active online. Yeah, they're not wasting paper and trees. So they're still working well.
But David Lisa is sending all his podcast and everything.
Oh, Suiza. Yeah, he's doing a lot online. Yes. So let's be seated. We'll do it. Okay. Well, join in.
Rabbi?
Together. Yeah. Go ahead. Judy.
As we progress, are we going to have a guard again outdoors?
And we're gonna have to start getting. Yeah. Once we get more word out, yeah, it'll be important. Yeah, we did have the sheriff's office was notified to have increased patrol here. I spoke with them, so they're very much aware. Yeah. Okay. It's important that you brought it up. Okay, I know Rosa Rosenberg sent me an email also was concerned. All right, let's, so maybe seated. I'm going to put on Adon Olam for our enjoyment. Freilach, hey, I give you Freilach. Yeah, I give you Freilach. Lesnar.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל לעת נסע בהפצות ובובון אזי מלך שמו נקרא
ואחרי ככלות הכול לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם אחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא יהיה בתפארת אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יצר נברא לעת נסע בהפצות אזי מלך שמו נקרא אחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא בתפארת והוא היה והוא בתפארת אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר לעת נסע בהפצות ובובון אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה
והוא הווה.
והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם ויציב מבעד
ישכן וחסד כל הזמן
אחרי קליפות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם ויציב מבעד נסק בעץ וכל הזין מלך שמו נקרא אחרי קליפות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא בתפארה. והוא היה והוא בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לא יחזק בעץ וכל הזין מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי קליפות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לא יחזק בעץ וכל הזין מלך שמו נקרא אחרי קליפות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא בתפארה. והוא היה והוא בתפארה. והוא היה והוא בתפארה. והוא היה והוא בתפארה. אדון עולם.
Okay, and that was broadcast somewhere in East Europe. Didn't see where it was. Okay, so
What a beautiful version.
I know, nice klezmer Freilach version of Adon Olam to wrap up our Shabbat. I'm going to wish everyone Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to all
Shabbat Shalom.
the and everybody here. We had our minyan, virtual and real. That's a great mix. And so we're going to close off. Wish everybody everything good.